My name is student Dr. Moore, and I'm going to be presenting my project called Assessing the Prevalence, Quality, and Compliance of Data Sharing Statements in Gastroenterology Publications, a cross-sectional analysis. So we started off just kind of looking at data sharing statements in gastroenterology research because we believe that reproducibility is essential to quality research, and a key part of reproducibility for clinical trials specifically is the ability to see the data that people have gathered during their studies. And while raw data may not be accessible just because of, some misuse fears or lack of incentives for sharing or competitiveness, we believe that the prevalence of the diseases necessitates an improvement of data sharing in gastroenterology research to advance treatment outcomes in the field. So the objectives of our study were to analyze the inclusion, content, and application of data sharing statements in gastroenterology journals. We were aimed to identify barriers and kind of provide some recommendations that would enhance data sharing and reproducibility in the future. Before we began this study, our team was trained on the study methods, the inclusion and exclusion criteria of clinical trials. We used a platform called RAYAN to screen all of our studies that fell within the search string that we used. And if we had any issues between me or the second author, a third party author was available to kind of finalize our disputes and decide which way we would go from there. So we included clinical studies with primary data from 5 of the top gastroenterology journals. Some of these were excluded for redundancy. For instance, if 2 journals focused on hepatology, we would exclude the one with a lower impact factor to not contaminate our data with overrepresentation from hepatology journals. So 2 authors independently extracted details, funding sources, study design, policies, and then data sharing statement details regarding if data sharing statements were available or were not available within these studies specified in our trial. Once we retrieved all that data, we did statistical analysis on it to look at study design, publication year, journal, diagnostics for the model. And we also analyzed the data themes utilizing AI to kind of analyze what those themes stated regarding what information they would elicit to us if we requested data, if that data was available, and if that data was available online in some type of repository, or if it's publicly available. So we reached out to corresponding authors to see if we could gather their data, if in fact their data sharing statement said the data was available. And our results kind of identified that 953 articles met our total inclusion criteria, and of that, 303 were analyzed for data sharing statement. And kind of just in those results, 77% of those trials were clinical trials. And we kind of noted that data sharing statement availability increased over the years. There were some implementations made by the ICMJE, which is the international board that kind of messes with the journals and decides what exactly they should kind of policy implementation of that. And what really stuck out was the Lancet Gastroenterology and Hepatology, and they had the highest prevalence with 82%. And our theme analysis showed that conditional data availability was the most frequent theme, and privacy concerns were kind of also up there. So kind of the overall trend was that data was not very widely available for fears that we kind of assumed in the beginning of data misuse, lack of incentives. And so you would either have to reach out to a corresponding author to get the data from them, or if that was the case, they said that data would not be available due to privacy concerns regarding like patient information, ethical concerns, things like that. And so we contacted 284 authors, and 54% of them did not respond. 25% were willing to share data unconditionally, and 38% agreed with conditions. We weren't terribly surprised by that number, given some previous studies regarding just email information. In general, most authors do not email within, I believe it's 48 hours, they're not going to email you, and rates just fall after that. And so we gave 2 weeks to respond to our emails. And like we said, 54% did not respond. So kind of the conclusions we drew were that there are some journals that are doing really good stuff, like the Lancet Gastroenterology and Hepatology specifically. They had 100% data sharing statement adherence. And then others like Clinical Gastro and Hepatology were below 31%. And this just kind of goes back to journal specific implementation of data sharing statement enforcement policies regarding what they have. And I think the next step in this will be stricter enforcement of data sharing statement inclusion, specifically what goes in a data sharing statement. Because in our kind of trial, we noted that data sharing statements may have been included, but they could have said something as simple as data is not available, or they could have had something that said, all authors had access to this data, which is really not what this project is about. On here, you can see our Prisma flow diagram, looking at our exclusion and inclusion process. Kind of look here at our figure 2, showing the increasing prevalence of data sharing statements as time went on in our trial. And then table 4, I think, is worth noting about the amount of authors that did not respond to our request to elicit the data that they said that they would share with us. Appreciate your time, and thank you very much.